Yo, what's up guys? It's your boy Nova coming back at you with another video, playing some Idle Heroes today. So I figured I'd kind of get things started today, kind of going over the game and what it's all about. So if you were just, getting started on it, you'd have an idea of what you'd want to do. So without further ado, let's get into it. So yeah, what is Idle Heroes? It's an idle game where you can build up heroes and form teams to tackle different game modes to kind of build up some resources, such as Tower of Oblivion, where you can fight through. I think there's like 650 floors that you can get gold and promotion stones, gear, etc. Make your heroes a little bit stronger. Yeah, places like Brave Trial where you can fight different teams and go through it all the way to the end and open up some nice rewards. It'll have some hero copies in there and some resources if you need them along the way. And then different things like the arena where you can test your might against teams from other players in your server or your battle group, depending on what mode it is. Pretty much the name of the game is you want to advance your heroes to progress further in the game in order to gather more resources to then further advance your heroes so you can gather more resources. It's kind of an endless cycle, if you will. I say endless, but I mean, it's a cycle where you want to push further to progress further to get you guys stronger and ultimately, have a team that you can go against these different game modes and compete and win and gain resources and stuff. So yeah, I found this game one day while I was taking a quick break at work, just kind of scrolling through Facebook. Yeah, I know, LOL, Facebook. And in the beginning I was just like, yeah, why not? Whatever, this should pass the time by. I didn't really think much of it. And in the beginning I was just kind of, nonchalant, didn't really think about what I was doing and pretty much thought into it. Play a couple minutes here, one day, maybe the next, whatever. And was just grabbing things as I went along. I didn't really think about too much of what I was doing and kind of going along with the game. But eventually, as the further I got into the game, my team started getting a little bit stronger and I was able to progress further in different game modes. And I started to realize that I was actually having a lot more fun with it than I thought, just downloading some kind of mobile game on my phone. Because I was always like a PlayStation, Xbox kind of guy, whatever, where I'd sit down and play some NBA 2K or Call of Duty, whatever, and didn't really expect much, to be honest, when I downloaded the game. But just as life started getting busier and busier, I was working a ton of hours, and with the kids at home and everything, they're trying to find time to sit down in front of a TV and PlayStation or whatever for any kind of length of time to play a game I was finding it increasingly more difficult. So yeah, I just started enjoying it more and more as I kind of progressed through the game and unlocked different modes, and then was trying to figure out strategies on how to beat them and what's the best team composition and which hero is best at a certain game mode over another or whatever. But yeah, as far as why should you play, I mean, basically you just have to ask yourself two questions really. I mean, do you enjoy playing games where you can kind of build characters and progress a team and kind of work yourself through a story type thing? And are you a busy person? Do you have time to sit in front of a PlayStation or Xbox anymore? I know I don't. So I just gave it a shot and I fell in love with it, and who knows, give it a shot, maybe you will too. So in Idle Heroes, you want to find a good early hero to focus all your resources into and kind of build them up as fast as you can. When I first started, I spread everything out between all my characters, and yeah, I actually ended up not progressing quite as far as I could have if I had just focused on one and used all of that quote unquote food, as we call it, to kind of build that one single hero up as high as I could, because I would have been able to progress further in some of the game modes and provide myself with some more resources and hero copies and stuff along the way. So definitely don't do that. But yeah, you definitely just want to try and focus on a few characters to just get them as high as you can. Some examples of some like really good early game heroes are, some copies of Inosuke if you have him, or Horus. He's a great one. He was actually my first E5. Penny's a great one. I know she was when she first came out. Everybody loved building her, and our boy Cthulhu can do some pretty good work up until end game, and that's where he kind of falls off a little bit. But he's gonna get you all the way up to Death 1 and Aspen Dungeon and stuff like that. And I know you have no idea what any of that is yet, but yeah, just if you get any copies of these guys, definitely hold on to them. Those are good ones, good early ones to build. It doesn't technically matter who you build first, just as long as you realize that some heroes later on are going to perform well and others aren't, because you can always turn a hero into what we call food. Basically, we use heroes to power up other heroes, right? So to make, say, a 9-star Inosuke, you're going to need, 2 6-star other fortress heroes along the way and a bunch of other little 5-star heroes to kind of feed into him to get his power level up, right? So say if you build a 6-star, I don't know, Sigmund along the way, and he's actually a pretty decent one to build early game. But you could always just turn around and use him to power up an Inosuke. One thing I will say with that though is try not to take characters past 6-star unless you're going to 9-star them. So there's like this weird thing where there's a limbo. So if you have a 7-star character, you can't really use it for anything as far as food or anything. You have to go ahead and then level it up to 9-star for it to be useful again. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're leveling things up. If you're gonna go past 6 stars, which is just the initial little pink, purple, diamond, whatever it is, then you're gonna definitely want to take that character all the way to 9 stars. Even if you're not going to use them a lot later on, you definitely want to keep your options open to where you can use them to feed into other heroes later on. But another way you can progress is you can level up different characters and their level, which will raise their base stats so they hit harder and live longer in battle. You can also equip them with better gear, which will do much of the same. It'll give you some better stats, and you'll be able to progress further. And the further that you are able to go, the more resources you're going to be able to get to then level up that character even more, right? It's kind of a positive feedback loop, if you will. But that's going to also help you unlock different game modes when you get higher levels and stuff like that. And focusing on that one character, like I said, is going to be super beneficial, especially for places like Aspen Dungeon, where it's just kind of a 1 versus 3 or 4 enemies type thing, where you don't have access to your full team. So if you spread your resources too thin amongst your team and you don't have that one really like overpowered character, that's going to be one of the places you struggle. And that's one of the best places to kind of focus on early game too, because that's just going to be resources passively that you're generating while you're working or playing with the kids or doing whatever else you're doing. When that opens up, if you've reached a certain point, you're going to get more resources than say if you had just an evenly leveled team and you're still kind of middling around and in hard mode, but you got all the way to, I don't know, Hell 50 and your Smash with your E3 hero that you've maxed out, right? So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your different team building things. But yeah, eventually you're gonna get to get to a level in your characters where they start getting enables. And what that is you can once your character gets to a 10-star, you can use another copy of themselves and another 9 or 10-star food, depending on what enable level you're getting to, and that'll give you access to these different little nodes that you can turn on or off or change depending on what you're doing. So say you're setting your team up for PvP, you want to have as much speed on your team as possible, right? So you're going to want to go with those nodes that give you the attack, the HP, and the speed. Whereas maybe say now you're doing a PvE mode where it's like you're fighting the guild boss or you're fighting against broken spaces, and you want your character to do more damage and stuff, well then you can switch that node over to just an increased attack percentage type thing. So even within the same characters, there's a lot of different functionality that you can change up on it to make it fit whatever kind of game mode that you're going against. Now, certain characters are obviously going to perform better than others in certain game modes, but just when you're first getting started, say all you've got is an E3 Horus, well, that's going to be a great hero to kind of go through the entire game. You can switch him to attack enables for guild bosses, and he's going to pump out a fair amount of damage. And then in PvP, you want a little bit more speed or whatever, put him on those speed enables. If you want him to be a little bit more tanky and he be your tank up front, which a lot of people run him as, maybe a little bit more HP is what you need, right? So it gives a lot of variety and diversity amongst the heroes. And furthermore, once you get all the way up to what we call an E5, and that's our highest enable that we have in the game at the moment, certain heroes are going to be able to unlock more nodes, more, what am I trying to say? They're going to be able to unlock even further ways to increase their power. So you're going to have these nodes that become available once for certain characters once you've reached the void and you kind of delved into all that, and that'll be in a completely separate video later. But that you're going to be able to increase your hero stats, HP, attack. If you if you've got one of the void heroes, you can also change up whether you want holy damage or crit damage or damage reduction on them, kind of based on what you're fighting. You can switch that up, and it also enhances their skills. So say their special attack normally does, I don't know, 1200% attack damage on people, and you're able to enhance it. Now it doesn't say 1600% attack damage, so it just further increases your hero's powers. Not all heroes have this, and later on, we'll go over which ones do and don't, and they're kind of releasing that. More characters here coming soon from what the rumors are, so that's probably subject to change anyways. But it's you can give you a good kind of guide on which ones do and don't, and kind of which ones you want to focus on as you get later on in the game and you're starting to figure out who you want to make your first E5, and how far they're going to take you, what game modes you're going to be able to beat with them, and what enables that they're going to get later on will help you beat those game modes, right? Also, one thing to keep in mind is Idle Heroes is definitely a game of events, right? So they've got a rotating cycle of events that they go through every month. So for example, this week we have the Prophet Orbs, right? So it's New Year's week, so we've got some extra rewards going along with that. But most weeks you're going to have some light and dark shards, some glorious relics, and a couple hero copies as you reach certain milestones. So you definitely want to be saving those Prophet Orbs that you're going to be getting throughout the game and only using them during these events. Now, when you're first getting started, probably going to go ahead and use them as you get them, whether you have a full 80 or not, depending on how much you're able to save. But later on, once you're able to have an E5 character, you don't have to sit there and push for as much food as you can every time. You're able to save up, 80, 160, up to 320 orbs, and you can do 4 full completions and get all of these rewards 4 times. And that's typically with most events, the DH games will let you complete it 4 times and get the rewards, 4 times for it. But there's definitely something where you're going to want to save resources for and only use them in these events. This is one of the areas where I messed up when I first started. I just got stuff willy-nilly, used it. Okay, cool. Maybe I got a guy, maybe I didn't. I didn't really think too much about it. And then later on, when I was kind of getting a little bit more into the game and doing some more research, I was just like, oh man, I've been using these things this whole time. I've never really saved them for these events, and I've missed out on so many free rewards, right? So just keep in mind as you're going through and you start getting Prophet Orbs and heroic scrolls and stuff like that, to kind of know that there's an event for that, and try with everything that you can to only use those during those events, because it's just going to give you free rewards on top of it, because you were going to use it one way or the other, right? If you use say 100 heroic scrolls throughout the month outside of the event and you got nothing for it, I mean outside of whatever you summoned, but if you used all 100 of those during the event, you get better rewards. Like I think for the 50.1, there's 3 heroic scrolls and 3 profit, or 10 heroic scrolls and 3 profit orbs, right? Or and then at 100 is another 10 heroic scrolls and 3 more profit orbs. So you would have got back 20 more scrolls and 6 profit orbs for doing those same 100 summons than if you would have just, popped a couple here and popped a couple there and so forth and so on. Also during these events, drop rates are typically, increased, especially like during heroic summon events and stuff. So, also keep that in mind as far as like, when you do get currencies, probably a good idea to go ahead and save it until that event starts. Along with the Profit Orb event, usually we have an event called Heroic Miracle. This one's pretty easy event to complete, especially once you've been playing for a couple of months, is it just involves summoning like 3 5-star heroes from like the normal 4 factions, Abyss, Fortress, Forest, and Shadow, along with 2 5-stars from both the Dark and Light factions. These ones are a little bit harder to obtain, the Dark and Light ones are, so it's usually not recommended that you try and build those ones as your first heroes. They're typically a notch above the rest of the heroes in the game, but they're also harder to get. The drop rates aren't quite as good, and so you just want to kind of save any copies that you get or any food that you get for this Heroic Miracle thing so that you can complete it, because once you summon all those 3-star or the 3 5-star heroes from each faction and the 2 from Light and Dark, then your reward for doing all that is usually one of the top of the line heroes in the game, whether that's say an Ada or a Belrain, or I think this month was Rogan, who's super good in PvP. Although right now with 4Cs, they kind of put a curb on that, but that's a topic for a whole different scenario. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind, as well as it's not just currencies, it's 4-star shards and 5-star shards and stuff like that. There's specific times you kind of want to be opening those, just to increase the amount of stuff that you're getting for them. So the next week in the event cycle usually has Wishing Fountain event and gem boxes. During the Wishing Fountain event, you can use these wishing coins to spin a roulette wheel to get a chance to obtain certain resources on the wheel. Those usually include gold, spirit, dust, gear, and hero shards. Most of the time, the rewards for this aren't usually very top tier as far as the heroes that you're going to get or the amount of relics you get and stuff like that. So you don't really need to save up, 4 loops and do those every time or whatever. Most people only usually do 1 or 2, even in the late game. It's more about the resources for it. But lately, every like 4 to 6 months or so, DH Games has been offering what we call a quote-unquote pay-to-win artifact for doing a quad completion of this event, which just means 4 full loops. And each loop is 300 wishing coins. Now, if you are a VIP member, which spend a little money, I think it's VIP 3 that unlocks, you can actually do 240 coins and get the full 300 points for it, if you will. So a lot of people have been saving up a full 4 loops just in case they release one of those, because those pay-to-win artifacts are really the difference between beating certain game modes or PvP strength specifically. Like right now, everybody wants AMBs and Rui Scepters and stuff like that for the AM game meta. So those things are fantastic when you can grab them for free, because typically they do carry a price tag to get something like that. They'll offer them in events, but it's only in such a way that you have to pay money for them, right? So whenever you can grab them up for free, that's really nice. When you're first starting out early game, you're probably just want to go ahead and spend this during the event, even if you only complete a 1 or 2 completions. But later on, you might find that hey, I don't need the resources quite as much. Let me go ahead and save up a full 900 or however many it is. What is it? 720, 960. If you're a VIP 3 or 1200, if you're free to play. And that way, in case they release one of those artifacts or whatever, you can grab it, right? But that's completely up to you. As far as gem boxes go, those are pretty straightforward. It has a gem value tied to how much it costs and what resources are inside. Most players typically grab like the 500 and the 1500 gem box, and then occasionally the 6 to 8K one, depending on what they throw inside of it. A lot of times, if they throw like one of the really good hero copies, or it's got a ton of guild coins or glorious relics that you can use to, get pay to win artifacts or other hero copies and stuff like that, they'll buy those. But it really just depends. There's a whole breakdown of what resources kind of have what gem value cost to it, and we'll go over that in a later video. But it just gives you an idea of kind of what you're looking for in these boxes, because some of them, like for an example, a heroic scroll, right? You can buy it from the marketplace for 125 gems. So that's what most people view a heroic scroll as gem value wise. But for this one, you can get 5 of them, plus I think it's like some promotion stones or whatever, in the 500 gem box, right? So it's like $100 or 100 gems per scroll, right? So that would be a good value, quote unquote, for the boxes that you're looking for. But you don't just want to go buy them all out, because a lot of times you don't even need some of those resources, or they have like elite hero shards, which the chance to get like anything good from it is insanely low. So you kind of just throwing your gems away at that point. So you kind of want to just manage what you're spending your gems on, unless you're one of those, unless you're a whale. I mean, none of this applies to you. You go buy everything and you're good, right? But for those of us with a little bit of a budget, you typically want to kind of look at it. Is it a good gem value? Yes, let me grab it. If not, all right, cool, let me pass up on it, right? Not a big deal if you don't buy them all out every time. So next up in the rotation, we have shelter missions and Imps Adventure. In the shelter event, you can swap heroes for a specific faction for a hero being offered that usually is pretty good hero, and you'll get some decent gear and some dice, which we'll go over in a second. But it's highly recommended that you grab all of the 4 regular heroes that are offered. The light and dark one, don't even bother with, because they cost 2 light and dark father, which are a premium, and it costs 2,000 gems, and you don't get any dice for it. So unless for whatever reason they put somebody insanely good in it that you're really working on and trying to grab more copies of, don't worry about the light and dark ones. But the normal ones are super good, because you get that gear, especially early game. Getting that gear is going to make a huge difference. You're going to see a huge power spike in your hero's performance, and then also you're getting those copies of different heroes, so you can make them stronger, right? So say you only had 1 copy of a Penny, and she was offered for a shelter mission, and now you've got 2 copies of her, so you can make her a 6-star, and actually technically you can take her all the way to 8-star before you need a second one to make her 9-star. But we'll get into that later. But the dice is a really good thing, because that is going to give you more rolls on Imp's Adventure, which is basically just like Idle Heroes versions of Monopoly. You're taking your little imp and you're moving them around the board. You're landing on different tiles that are going to give you resources. They're going to give you hero shards. They're going to give you, there's these things called star huts, and when you pass them, they give you stars. Well, the more stars you accumulate at certain milestones, you'll get rewards. So I think at like 80, you'll get 10 heroic scrolls, and at 110, you're gonna get shoot, I don't even remember what it is now. I'll have to look at it, but I think it's like a 6-star puppet or something there, and then like 140, you're gonna get maybe a material box, and 170, you're gonna get a 5-star selection chest where you can actually choose whatever hero you want in there, right? It just keeps going up from there, and they're really good rewards, and a lot of times that you can, depending on the luck and what you get and how many stars you get, I've seen people free to play, not spend a dime, get all the way up to 300 on it before. Now that's super rare, and 300 is 1 completion, so you're getting all the rewards from that event. And yeah, you can do it multiple times, but there's no way, if without spending any kind of money on it, you're not going to be getting more than that. But it's really good value for what you're getting out of it. Now this is the one event though that you can't hoard any resources for, so any dice that you have at the end of the event just automatically gets converted into extra stars towards whatever progress that you had, towards those rewards. You can't hoard them and save them for next event, so don't go thinking you're like, oh yeah, I'm like really gonna kill it next time, because you're not gonna have any. You're just gonna be starting from scratch again. So, but yeah, just kind of keep an eye out on that. And the final event that we have on the monthly calendar is the Heroic Summon event. This event is typically when they release new heroes into the game, so players can summon up to 2,000 scrolls to get a minimum of 8 copies from the new hero from day 1, if you save up enough. Now, it takes a long time to save up 2,000 scrolls, unless you got really deep pockets, but most players, what they do, this is what I do, is I'll save up all my scrolls throughout the year, and there's a couple major events that DH Games has that they offer more rewards for outside of the events even, and that's Christmas, Chinese New Year, and the Idle Heroes anniversary, which is usually around mid-June. So you've got two kind of right around the early part of the year, Christmas and Chinese New Year, and then about 4 or 5 months later, you've got the anniversary event, right? And during these events, they usually release like the new Light and Dark heroes, and those are usually, like I said, a notch above like the other, Fortress, Abyss, Shadow heroes, and all that kind of stuff. And so, it's extra prudent to save your scrolls for those, because not only are you getting a really good hero for it, but then there's usually some extra currency to an extra event that's tied to it that'll give you more rewards, whether those comes in the forms of resources or extra hero copies, or maybe a pay to win artifact, whatever it is. You always want to kind of save those for those events, right? Now, unless like you've just got a ton of scrolls hanging around, you've been buying them every day from the marketplace, you've been really good on saving them and stuff, and there comes a new hero that comes out who's really, really good, and you really like him, grab him. At the end of the day, the name of the game is fun, right? So if you're not having fun, you're just sitting there and saving, what are you getting out of it? But if you're like me and you like being able to progress, kind of more efficiently and faster and stuff like that, saving those for these events are going to do so much more for your team than if you just grabbed a random hero here and there and got like 4 copies of it, and now you have it sitting at 9-star, but you can't really take it to 10-star yet, and it's just sitting there in your bags, and now you don't have those scrolls for these big events, and now there's a really good hero that came out and a free to pay to win artifact type thing, and you can't grab it, right? So it's just one of those things to kind of keep in mind as well. So yeah, I know we just went over a ton of information, and honestly, that's like just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so much more in the game to talk about. There's certain events that also come along every 2 weeks, and there's a bunch of other game modes and features that we hadn't even mentioned. So yeah, this is just a very small part of the game, just kind of getting you started on like what it is, what should I be doing type thing. But that's one of the parts that, it's one of the things that intrigued me about the game is, on its face, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's pretty simple. I hit them, they hit me, whatever. I set up my team, it auto battles for me. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot going on at first, but once you start getting into it and you start, exploring the different game modes and how certain heroes interact with certain gameplay and stuff like that, there's a lot of depth to the game, and that's when it started really getting fun for me, right? So when I discovered that I could finally pass the broken spaces, I think 3 or 4, when it was like 4 or 5 months in, and I had my little team of 8 stars. I built them all up to 8-star. I didn't have a single one at 9-star, and I know, looking back on it now, it kills me. But I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, I could finally pass this. And I started researching, what hero could kind of complement each other to, help me in certain game modes and stuff like that. And that's when I really started to just, fall in love with it and be like, oh my god, there's actually so much more to this game than I originally thought, and it's just, yeah. But don't worry. I mean, if you've been playing for a couple months, whatever, and you're like me, you didn't save anything, you just built whatever hero you wanted, you thought they looked cool, whatever. Take solace in the fact that like 90% of the rest of the players are doing the exact same thing, right? So it's not something where you're going to be so far behind your server that you can't ever possibly catch up. It's everybody kind of starts out the same way, right? So the fact that you're here, you're watching some videos, you're getting some more information on it, kind of shows that you kind of want to learn a little bit more and get better at the game type thing. You'll start catching on pretty quickly, and you'll catch up. I know when I first started playing, I shoot the first 3 or 4 months of the game, I don't think I even placed in the top 1 or 2 thousand in the arena, right? Didn't really honestly even care about it. But then as I started getting a little bit further along, I started leveling up my team a little bit more, and started getting a little bit stronger. Then I started, trying my hand at the PvP a little bit and trying to see, what matchups worked against other people. And, you know, I realized that, one E3 on the other person's team could destroy my entire team of 8 stars, no problem. And I was like, okay, that's why people say to, do it this way. Makes more sense now, right? Seeing it. So maybe I can save you some of the some of the headache that I had when I first started PvPing. So yeah, hopefully just take some solace in knowing that you're not the only one, right? So yeah, I know it was a lot of information, but hopefully if you're just picking this game up and you're kind of lost or not really sure where you should be going or who you should be focusing on or anything like that, hopefully you get some good info out of it. And don't worry, as we get further along, I'll be releasing some more videos for later on in the game. It just seems a little bit silly to start at the end, like, oh, hey guys, this is an end-game PvP setup, and you're like, what is that? I don't even know. Like, what are these things? What are these heroes? What is this gear? I don't get any of that, right? So figured we'd start from the beginning. We'll work our way up as we go, and as people get caught up. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the flip. Peace.